Hi guys. First, I want to introduce the artifact that I chose, and the artifact that I chose was Storymaker on abcyaw.com. This technology tool really interested me because of the reasons that you can create a story of your own, a short story, and create the pictures and draw them by yourself to go along with your own narrative. I know that kids love to tell stories, and there's nothing cooler than getting to create the illustrations for your own narrative story. It's almost like writing your first book, which I think kids will love. Um, when exploring Storymaker, I found many strengths and weaknesses throughout the whole thing. Some of the strengths include that, like I said earlier, you can create your own story along with your own pictures and kind of print it off, save it, and put it together like your own first book. There were some weaknesses, and the first one that I want to talk about is that it only allows you to have 5 pages, um, which I think is, it's nice in a way because it teaches students like not to be repetitive in their stories, because it's them wanting to get a lot of information in only a little bit of pages. So that's one way of looking at it, but I kind of think it's just a little too short. I think maybe 7 to 10 would be a little bit better because, as you can see, it doesn't allow you to have much information at the bottom, um, especially going off the story that I created this one off just to show you guys kind of an example. I really had to condense my story to and leave out a lot of detail to fit this format. But I really love like the concept of it and the idea. It just maybe I could have students create like two and put them together to create one narrative if need be, if their narrative stories that they were writing were a little bit longer than what this is allowing them to do. This being said, like you can only use extremely short stories for it. Um, so yeah, if I were to use this in my future classroom, I would use this during like my narrative writing session with my classroom. I think it would be a fantastic tool to incorporate into the writing process because it's bringing life to the story and in a way making their story like a masterpiece and something that they're going to be so proud to show off. And it's really making it their own. They have a chance to be creative, and it's just something that I think everyone could enjoy, whether you like to draw or you don't like to draw. Just getting to put colors together and make it your story, I think is awesome. Um, I also wanted to talk about uh, the example that I created, which was off of, I'll show you guys just a quick glimpse at it. It was off of a narrative that I wrote for my TCH 224 class last spring semester at ISU. As you can see, I had a 3-page narrative, and I could not, unfortunately, fit all this information into this 5-page narrative storytelling on here. So, just to give you a little bit of background information on the narrative that I wrote, it was about a time when I got on the airplane from St. Louis and flew to Florida. And on our way, when we were descending down into Florida to land, we got struck by lightning out of nowhere. Everything ended up being okay, but it was quite suspenseful and kind of freaky at the same time because that had never happened. And you see it in the movies, and it's like, oh my goodness, what's happening? So I thought this would be a fun way to show you guys this fun tool. So when creating it, you click on this button up here and you create like the image. You can either do the image first or you can do the story first, whichever way works, which I think that's awesome too. You don't have to go in a certain order. So if students want to write their narrative first and then draw the pictures from their narrative, they can, or if they want to draw first, they can draw their entire narrative and then write. I think that's an awesome way of it as well because it gives you that different perspective on it. So I chose to write first and then I created my images. So I'll just show you my first one. I put once upon a time we boarded a plane to Florida from St. Louis, keeping it short and simple because I had to. And then this was going to be my title page. So it's titled The Strike. and it kind of shows you a glimpse into what happens in my story. So I try to draw my best airplane and lightning striking the wing. So then I'll just click through the next pages. So I drew this one, it was of us boarding. Here's the next one, it's of us. It's supposed to be inside the airplane. As you can see, I'm not the greatest artist, but I had fun with it, and that's the most important thing. I like just getting that way of being creative and putting my own spin on things. Like, I think it's fun. And then here's one of it actually happening in the story and the big boom. And you can look back in the story and see that this happens right here. So, and then the last page, I just kind of put welcome to Florida to let all my readers know that we made it there safe and sound. And then there's my story. So if you click on this bottom one, it kind of puts it into both picture or illustration and narrative writing form, so you can see it all on one page. So you can see what picture goes with what writing. So I really like that about that. So when I went to connect this to the readings that we've had, I wanted to really focus on week 1 and week 2, our readings that we had for those weeks. For week 1, one of the questions that we were discussing and looking through our readings to learn about was digital literacy. And I think that after reading through those articles week 1, digital literacy was a way that students can find and use information to create a way of learning. So I think this is a way for them to really find a way of learning about narrative stories, and how when you read a narrative story, you should be able to place an image in your head of what's happening throughout that story. So they're really getting to do that by drawing the images that stick out to them to go along with their story. So then they can learn, oh, when I read a narrative, if I can put an image to it, this is what's happening, and they can see that it's like a narrative story. Through this type of literacy, students are able to communicate with each other. They can find information, evaluate information, and even be creative when it comes to learning the information. And this is a way of being creative. I also put in my discussion, for week 1, I related the discussion in our readings to the article by Lankshire and Noble on page 3. They state, digital literacy enables us to match the medium we use to the kind of information we are presenting to the audience we are presenting to. So I also found this to be a way that, like, you don't have to use it for a short story. You can use it at the beginning of the year as an activity to introduce students, so like they can create their own narrative based on their own life and their own personal experiences or their hobbies or their interests or anything like that is a part of them that they want to introduce to the class. So it can be a way of them drawing pictures of them like shooting baskets after school or something like that. I think that would be really cool for them to use this format for that. I also wanted to connect it to the week 2 readings. I specifically liked to read the readings that talked about how technology connects to the Common Core standards, because I think this is something that could really connect to the Common Core standards through technology. And one of the articles that I focused on was the Common Core in Action article. It stated that the purpose of visual literacy is to explicitly teach a collection of competencies that will help students think about, and think with pictures. So this is doing that. This is what we were talking about, or what we weren't talking about, but what we were reading in those articles that we were assigned to read. I also wanted to relate it, like I'll give you an example of a Common Core standard that this would fit in the classroom. So it's Common Core Standard ELA Literacy RH 8.7, and it reads, integrate visual information, examples in charts, graphs, photographs, videos, or maps with other information in print and digital text. So this is a way of integrating visual um, information with a text information. So it's right there. We're doing that Common Core standard in the classroom through this activity. So I think that this is really a good way of meeting the needs of our diverse learners because it is completely up to them in what style they want to do it. If they want to draw pictures, they can. If they want to title it, if they want to draw part of the story up there. I mean, it's completely up to them, and that's why I think it's so diverse because you're getting your visual learners, you're getting your learners that read from um, text and learn from that way. Um, I mean, any learner, I think, can really strive from using this, and that's why I chose it. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy using this, and I hope it's something that you guys think about using in your future classroom because I really enjoyed it. So, yeah.